Now, as a brand, Infiniti has been dealing with somewhat of an identity crisis. In the early 2000s, they were easily known as the Japanese BMW. However, when they introduced the JX35 crossover back in 2012, we started to see a shift in the company's focus. This week, I'm testing out the refreshed 2018 QX60. Does it have what it takes to go against the best three-row luxury crossovers in the segment? That's what we're here to find out. So if you're a bit confused by the name change, you should just remember that Infiniti changed the name of all their products back in 2014, where SUVs got a QX name and the 60 designates to where it falls within the lineup. Now you can see Infiniti made some pretty extensive changes to this model in 2016, where they refreshed the front end. It has the same headlight design as the Q50 sedan with the LED running lights kind of following the curvature of the headlight. You have new inserts in the grille. The headlight itself is a bi-xenon design, which is standard. I'm surprised there's no full LED headlights because the platform made of this car, the Pathfinder, has LED low beam headlights. You do get LED fog lights, and then my test here, because it's the Deluxe Touring Package model, has the 360 camera and then front and rear parking sensors. Now you can see the design of this car takes a lot of design cues we've seen from a lot of Infiniti products. I do like the way the grille is designed. It's a very flowy, very curvaceous design, kind of going in theme with the way Infiniti likes to go with all the designs of their vehicles. Now, my tester, being the top of the line model, has 20-inch wheels from the Deluxe Touring Package. They look great. If you guys go for a lower trim model, they'll be 18-inch wheels. I think look a little bit too small. Now, one reason why Infiniti changed the naming nomenclature of all their models, because they wanted to separate it away from the engine. Before, it was the JX35 to show that it had a 3.5 V6. Now with QX60, they can kind of free that up because they do offer this as a hybrid, although it's not available for 2018 just yet. This 3.5 badge shows that it has the 3.5 liter gasoline engine. Now, this car actually rides on a platform that dates back to the current generation Murano, so it's getting pretty old. The wheelbase is about 114 inches long, same as the Pathfinder, and the overall length is about 206 inches long. That's about 2 inches longer than the current Pathfinder, its platform mate, and about 4 inches longer than the Acura MDX, which I consider this car to be its main competitor. Now at the rear, you can see updated taillights again with LED accents. They kind of remind me again of the darkened finish you got on the refreshed Q50 sedan. And then you can see here no visible exhaust tips. This is a family car, which I kind of am okay with Infiniti just kind of making it look a little bit more restrained there. Now, it does have a new foot-activated power liftgate if you guys have the key on you. The power liftgate is going to be standard. The foot activation feature, I believe, is optional. Now, the cargo area of the QX60 is definitely on the smaller side. Now, with all the seats up, you're only looking at around 15.8 cubic feet of space, which is actually about a cubic foot more than what you get in the MDX. So that's kind of a bragging right there. The seats, when you fold down these seats, which they're actually power folding, if you guys want to actually put the seat up, they'll rise up electrically, which is a differentiation from the Pathfinder. It has around 48 cubic feet of space with the third row folded. Fold down the second row and you get around 76 cubic feet of space, which is again a little bit more than what you get in the MDX. So that's kind of the bragging rights that Infiniti likes to show off. Now underneath here, there's a little bit of storage. There's the subwoofer for the Bose audio system, and then the spare tire is going to be located underneath the rear bumper, just like all those other SUV competitors. Now, just like all the other Infiniti vehicles, this car does come standard with the company's smart key access system with push button start and remote start. As expected, here is the current Infiniti and Nissan key fob. It is definitely due for replacement. Even though it's a nice key and it fits nicely in your hands, I just think it's time to update this thing. But to activate the remote start, just push this lock button here. It'll be push and hold the top arrow button here, and then the vehicle starts right up for you. To turn off the engine, just push the button here, and then it will shut off the engine for you. Now, when you first approach your QX60, you can keep the key fob in your pocket or your purse. There is a button here on the chrome accented door handle. To lock the door, just just push that button here that locks the door. To unlock it, there's actually no sensor on the back of the handle. You have to touch the door handle again, and that will unlock the door for you. Now, looking at the inside of the latest QX60, you can see the interior is definitely very familiar and very much dated. I mean, the design is nice. This interior, just to me, every time I look at it, reminds me, you know, that this car was introduced back in the, 2012 era. It just feels very early 2000s in this interior, although that's not necessarily a bad thing for some of you who want something more familiar. The seats are very plush. They're very comfortable. I like the piping that Infiniti put. They're heated and cooled. They have 12-way adjustability. The steering wheel looks very inviting. It's very warm in here, aside from just, the wood in here that kind of looks fake, although it is real wood from what I hear. Now, stepping inside the interior of the QX60, it has a really easy step in height, especially with this class of vehicle. You kind of expect that. And then when you shut the door, it still sounds solid. Even though this platform is getting old, it still has a nice high quality feel to it. Now, when you want to start the vehicle up, just put your foot on the brake, push this button here to fire up the engine. And immediately I'm seeing the gauges. They're really easy to look at. They're also clear. They're just really old. I mean, a lot of their competitors have moved on to a full LCD display, whereas this one has that teeny tiny, like 3.5-inch helper screen, which is fine. I mean, the graphics, they look okay. It's just if you see the competition, they've definitely done it better. The Acura MDX is kind of in the same boat here with the interior. Now, in terms of the overall quality, it's very nice in here. I mean, it's pretty much average. I struggle to find, any differences or, much nicer materials in this versus a fully loaded Pathfinder Platinum. The dashboard here is soft touch screening. There's some stitching here in the upper dash, which I believe is differentiated from the Pathfinder. This is even soft touch on the instrument panel hood. The door panel materials here, it's the same soft touch material. It has a nice graining to it. It has an aluminum accented door handle. We have 2-person memory seats. It's nice and padded down here where your elbows would rest. And then the windows are one-touch automatic for all four. Kind of expect that. This is a luxury brand. Now, in terms of the head unit here, this is another area where you're going to see that it's the most dated. You have a 7-inch LCD touchscreen display. This is part of the Infiniti Nissan navigation head unit. It's not even the new InTouch display with the dual screens, which again, I don't even really like. That's dated as well. You can control it from this little controller knob here, or it's also a touchscreen if you want to use the touchscreen portion. You're going to basically, push all the buttons here where it's nicely and clearly labeled. You can see all your different audio sources are here. The touch response is kind of on the slower side, which is kind of expected. The navigation display here is just super old. It looks like it's from 2005 basically, so it's time that Infiniti and Nissan completely update this. Don't expect to find Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. It's not available, although Acura offers it on the 2018 MDX. Now, one thing this car does offer is a 360 camera system with front and rear parking sensors with moving object detection, which is basically rear cross traffic alert. It's definitely a nice feature. You get it as part of the deluxe touring package, I believe. The screen, the graphics itself look a little bit old. I've definitely seen better resolution from the GPS display now, or the head unit display. Now, looking down here, you have more audio controls here. I like that there's a tuning knob, a volume knob. It's all clearly labeled. Down here, there's a little bit more storage. There's a power outlet down there where you can put your phone and some things. This controls the Xtronic Cvt Transmission. It's a pretty good transmission. We'll go into the driving dynamics later. Some of you may be turned off at the fact that this is a CVT. However, I will argue this is a family vehicle and it gets better gas mileage than some of the traditional automatics. And I'm not a big fan of the 9-speed automatic that's in the Acura MDX until they replace it with the 10-speed. Down here, there's your drive mode selector, cycle between snow, eco, normal, and sport. This is not really a sporty vehicle, so I'll probably leave it in normal most of the times that I'm driving it. You can see your heated and cooled seat controls are here. I like the fact that it's a little knob. Switches to the left for cooling, switches to the right for heating. The steering wheel here, it's an older steering wheel design. I much prefer the steering wheel design in the new Q50 and Q60. It is power telescoping. It's the same steering wheel in the Pathfinder, it's just with an Infiniti badge. This button here turns on all your driver assistant aids. It's basically the same way that it works on all the other Infiniti products, where this vehicle will come to a full stop. It'll actually stop for you even if you don't have the adaptive cruise control on, which is definitely nice. It kind of goes a step further in being a little more proactive with its adaptive cruise control function. Over here, the center console is nice and padded. You have 2-tier storage with a good amount of space. There's 2 USB ports in there. There's a video and audio jack in there as well. You can see there's another storage there for your your DVD headrest entertainment system. You do have a panel sunroof, although it's just kind of a standard sunroof in the front. That portion over there doesn't actually open up, just lets in more light. The seats, as I said before, are very comfortable. And then the glove compartment here, it's damped, it's lined with felt, it's gigantic. So plenty of storage in here, and it does feel roomier than the last MDX I drove, so I can see why a lot of families may choose this over the Acura. The interior, aside from just the data tech, if that's not a deal breaker for you, families are going to find this pleasantly surprising. So as a family car, the second row and third row are very important within this segment, and the QX60 basically delivers. This is a little bit more roomy than what I experienced in the last MDX. Now you can see the second row here. First of all, there's no captain's chairs available, which I think is going to be fine. Most buyers prefer this setup, I believe, anyways. And the space in here is really nice, honestly. There's a nice flat floor here, so you could put 3 people across and they'd be comfortable. Infiniti gives you plenty of legroom, not as much foot space underneath the front seats, which surprised me. Now, a couple things you're going to notice here in terms of features. There are heated rear seats, 2-level, which is nice. You have rear seat vents, you have your own set of climate control, you have all these different power outlets back here. And then my tester has like a $2,500 option for rear seat entertainment system with the dual headrests. I'd probably skip them. They don't even play Blu-ray DVDs, kind of showing how old the platform is on this car, which most people don't even use DVDs anyways. Now, you do have a nice little armrest here that folds down, and then my tester has the pano sunroof, which I'm surprised Infiniti didn't carry over the sunroof here, because most of the times they'd put like a entertainment system here, but since it's in the headrest, they should have just carried over the sunroof all the way through. Now, getting into the third row in this car is pretty easy. Not quite as easy as the MDX where you had a button and it moved over, but you just kind of pull this lever here. The seat itself, it slides forward, it lifts this up, and then basically push it all the way forward, which it does create a huge space to get into the third row. Now, I'm gonna climb back here just for entertainment purposes. Okay, and remember, I'm 5'7", so I'm not terribly tall, but the seat does have an adjustability here where you can slide it forward to give more space. And when it's at this level here, I actually have really good legroom, surprisingly. Now, my head, you can see, is touching the ceiling. My hair is, at least, from that sloping roof. But, you know, the third row here is surprisingly not bad. I do find this a little bit more tolerable than the MDX, which is going to be a huge selling feature for this, especially in this class of vehicle. Now, in terms of features in the third row, you have a nice view out of the pano sunroof, but there's 2 power outlets back here, but no actual rear seat vents, which surprised me. But I mean, overall, the third row is definitely usable for shorter adults. So under the hood of the latest QX60, you're gonna have just one gasoline engine choice. This is the company's corporate VQ motor. It's kind of getting a little up there in the years. It's a 3.5 liter V6. Now it has direct injection, which is new for 2017. That did raise the power last year. This engine now produces 295 horsepower, which is an increase of 30, and 270 pound-feet of torque, which is more power than what you get in the current generation MDX. So again, it's kind of that little bragging right that Infiniti likes to do. Now, this was the first Infiniti product to have a Cvt transmission, and that's kind of why I said it's kind of the shift in the focus for the company. Now, it's this updated Cvt. This is kind of the same powertrain in the Maxima. Now, because of that Cvt, it does get very good gas mileage. It's rated at 19 city, 26 highway on premium, which again matches that of the MDX with its 9-speed automatic and all-wheel drive. All-wheel drive is an option that my tester has, which does lower the MPG like 1 or 2. Most buyers, I imagine, are going to choose that. This car weighs around 4,500 pounds. It can tow up to 5,000 pounds, so that practicality aspect is there. This particular one with all-wheel drive, let's get out on the road and see how it all performs. So most of you guys know this particular class of vehicle is very popular here in America, and really the 2 Japanese stalwarts, the Acura MDX and the Infiniti QX60, are basically one or both of the top sellers. And there's a reason for that. I mean, they both have strong value. They're both, you know, they feel nicer than their mainstream counterparts. And really the QX60, the last one I drove was so long ago, it's been a while, but however, it's very similar to the Nissan Pathfinder, which I had last year. And first setting off in this QX60, I have to say, it very much drives just like the Pathfinder, which, you know, it's not a bad thing. The Pathfinder drives great. Now, a lot of you may initially be turned off by the Cvt transmission, and you know, as far as the Cvt transmission in general, this car's Cvt is pretty much class competitive. It's relatively responsive. It kind of puts the engine right in the, you know, meat of its power band. The responsiveness of the Cvt is average. I've definitely driven cars that are just a little bit quicker to downshift ratios, and last year Infiniti added 30 more horsepower to this car, which, you know, ups the power down to 295, which is about 9 more horsepower than what you get in the current Pathfinder. And you know, driving this car, I don't really feel a difference in the acceleration compared to the Pathfinder. It still has that initial sluggishness that I didn't love. as the CVT. When you first kind of take off the line, it's a little slow. The revs build, and then it starts to mimic shifts when you really put your foot into it. But really, that's not going to be very important to most of the people who buy this car. They're going to really buy it because it's very smooth, it's very quiet, and when you get out on the highway like this is where the QX60 really excels. It's got a smoother ride quality than the current Acura MDX. In terms of quietness, I'm going about 70 right now, and it's pretty quiet in here. The road noise is relatively hushed. The engine does make some rather annoying, loud noises if you guys are really pushing it. It's funny because I usually like the way the VQ V6 sounds. However, I did notice that it gets a little grainy at high revs, and I think that's a little unacceptable in this particular class of car. But I want to show you guys one more thing. Is one thing that really differentiates this from the Pathfinder is the driver assistance. This car has Infiniti's full adaptive system where it comes to a full stop. It's got the predictive forward collision alert, so it's constantly scanning ahead for 2 cars in front of you, and if you start to get too close to somebody, it will actually push back on the accelerator, slam on the brakes, it'll beep at you, it'll tell you you're an idiot, you're driving like a crazy person, which is exactly what this car does. It's a really great safety feature, and it kind of pushes the QX60 to next levels of autonomous driving. It's getting closer to full autonomous, where this is semi-autonomous. The Pathfinder's adaptive cruise would shut off when you got the speeds below like 20 miles an hour. But when you put your foot down here, you can see it has pretty good, decent acceleration. I'd say 0 to 60 times are around 7.3 seconds, which makes it about a second slower than a lot of its competition. However, it doesn't really feel like that in the real world. You're just kind of drive this thing, find that it has pretty good pull for most situations. But you're not going to be going super fast in this thing, and you're not going to be attacking in corners. I mean, the steering is pretty lifeless. It doesn't have much feedback. It's precise enough, although it's not very quick. It doesn't really talk to you in terms of what it's doing with what the front tires are doing. The body leans pretty heavily. This is not a sporty SUV, and that's okay with me because it's designed to be a really comfortable, quiet, luxurious family car. And if you want the sportiness, that's kind of the way the MDX goes, which is why the Infiniti in general kind of has a brand identity crisis. I mean, this is electric power steering. It's not the direct adaptive steer like in the Q50 and Q60. And Infinitis used to be known as like the Japanese BMW, and this is kind of more approaching like toward Lexus, where even Lexus is kind of trying to be a little bit more sporty nowadays. This thing, it's decently quick. I just don't like the way the CVT sounds. So if you don't like CVTs, you're probably going to want to pick the MDX. But if you're okay with CVTs and you just want the smoothness, the refinement, you want more interior space, you want the quietness, and you also like the design. This is certainly a very handsome looking SUV. If curves are more your style, I personally like SUVs that are a little bit more boxy as opposed to all these curves. But anyways, let's talk a little bit about the gas mileage of this car, because it's rated at 1926, which is basically the same as the MDX. And in my week's worth of testing, I've been averaging about 19.5 mpg. In mixed driving, on the highway, I did push it to about 25 mpg, which is basically the same as what I got in the MDX. Keep in mind, this is a bigger and heavier vehicle, so that CVT does translate into slightly better efficiency. And I also find it more responsive than the 9-speed auto in the MDX, which I just can't stand because it's a ZF-based transmission. Although I can't stand the noises this car makes when I start pushing it, so I prefer the gear shifters of the MDX. It's like I can't win. I kind of have to go to a German brand, with their ZF 8-speeds, where I find that it's the most pleasant to use on a daily basis. I mean, if you're okay with CVTs, you're going to find this totally fine, but you're really going to appreciate just the quietness, the roominess, and the overall feel of this car. It's definitely feels different than the MDX, although the two cars have different missions. But I can see why this vehicle in general is the best-selling model in the Infiniti lineup. So the last time I tested this platform of vehicle, it was still known as the JX35, and I came away relatively impressed with it. So after 6 model years on the market, how does the all-new QX60 stack up? Pretty much as the same as it always has been. It's still a really great luxury crossover SUV that's going to appeal to a lot of families looking for space and luxury at a relatively affordable price. Now, what's going to cost to put this in your driveway? Well, the QX60 starts at just over $43,000, which is actually the same level as the fully loaded Pathfinder platform. It's about $1,000 more, where this car kind of gives you most of the features of its Nissan cousin. Now, my tester basically having all the options for it. It has the deluxe touring package, which gives you the pano sunroof, the 20-inch wheels, the upgraded head unit. It has the rear seat DVD entertainment system. This one stickers for a tick over $60,000, which does make it pretty expensive. It's about 15 grand more than a fully loaded Pathfinder platform. And to be honest, when I had that vehicle last year, I struggled to find the differences in this car aside from the upgraded driver assistance tech, the power fold up rear seats, and then of course the Infiniti styling. There isn't really too much differentiation, but despite the big $15,000 price cap, that hasn't stopped Infiniti from selling a lot of these. They sold about 3,000 units in January of 2018, making this car actually outsell the MDX that same month, which is definitely an interesting proposition. Infiniti sells a little over 40,000 of these every year, so that's the company's best seller. But with all that said, I think this car definitely has all the space and practicality that families are going to want. It doesn't really have the sporty driving dynamics, which is okay with me, but the CVT and its V6 provide pretty decent power in everyday driving situations, which I think is going to be the most important aspect for families in this segment. But anyways, I hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on this 2018 Infiniti QX60. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, make sure you follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and if you haven't done so, please subscribe to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you all in the next video.